Welcome to Vital Ventures, the podcast where we uncover the secrets of successful health and wellness entrepreneurs. Each episode, we'll be diving into the minds of industry leaders to discover the strategies and habits that have propelled them to the top of their game. Join us as we explore the world of health and well-being entrepreneurship and learn from the best in the industry. Welcome to the podcast. I'm joined today with Dr. Haug. He is a chiropractor with a unique and personal connection to the field. After suffering a spinal cord injury in martial arts in college, he was left with a condition where he had full body tremors and he was unable to eat, he was unable to sleep, and desperate for relief, he turned to chiropractic of all places and found a treatment that was able to finally stop his tremors. So this experience led him to pursue a career in chiropractic, where he later focused on the very powerful area known as the cranial-cervical junction after experiencing many headaches. A few of his achievements include graduation from the University of Wisconsin with a bachelor's in science in 92, graduation from Life West in 97 with his doctorate in chiropractic. He completed an internship in the field of cranial-cervical junction chiropractic at the prestigious Pierce Clinic in St. Petersburg, Florida in 97. He was the assistant instructor for the cranial-cervical junction program at Life West. He wrote and published the manual for the Sonar Chiropractic Foundation for cranial-cervical junction X-ray analysis. He received the Sonar Chiropractic Foundation's Eagle Award for dedication to the advancement of cranial-cervical junction work. He's been voted the best chiropractor in Clovis, California for 2 years running by the Independent Readers Poll. But today, he lives in Naperville, Illinois. He enjoys family activities with his wife, his 3 children. He cycles, he plays tennis, practices martial arts still. He's also an avid photographer. You can find him in the Chicago area, photographing the city. And in his practice, he is rather proud that he has patients from 8 states and 170 cities who travel far and wide to come see him. Dr. Haug, thank you for joining me today. I'm very, very honored. How are you?
Great. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. So tell me a little bit about, or a lot about, cranial-cervical junction work. What is that? I've never heard. Is that the same as upper cervical care, or is this something different?
No, yeah. So it's gone under different names: upper cervical chiropractic or Atlas chiropractic, and then now I think the latest, name that we're going by is cranial-cervical junction chiropractic. But the way that I discovered it was I was injured in my neck. Right when I first started chiropractic school, and I started getting horrible headaches, and to the point where I really couldn't focus or concentrate. And I went and I saw a lot of different chiropractors, probably about 10 different chiropractors that all had very good reputations, and none of them could really help me. And I went to the dean of students and I told him I had to drop out because I just couldn't focus, and I needed to do some healing, I thought, from my neck injury. And he said, why don't you go see an upper cervical chiropractor? And I said, I've been to 10 chiropractors and they all adjusted my upper cervical region or my atlas or cranial cervical junction region. And I think I'm just hurt and I need to heal. And he said, you got to go see this guy. He's about an hour and a half from where you live and they charge students. So I'm like, yeah, that's not a very good selling point. But he made the appointment and I went. And after my first upper cervical adjustment, it was not only that I improved with my headaches, but I felt like a kid again. I mean, the room got big, my smell came back, the colors got vivid, and I said, what's going on in chiropractic where I could have multiple practitioners working in the same area with a lot of different results? And that's when I kind of started going to a lot of seminars, not only in upper cervical chiropractic, but I think I was at a seminar almost every weekend, learning something about technique from different, different methods within chiropractic. And in the end, I just ended up really loving how much you can get out of the upper cervical area if you really focus and really, really try to really whittle down all the issues in the upper cervical spine, how much better the rest of the body does when you do that. And that's how I got into upper cervical chiropractic. I think that there are several different reasons why upper cervical chiropractic is unique and important. The first thing being it's just a very, very neurologically sensitive area, and there's probably 3 or 4 different reasons why it's so sensitive, but one is called proprioception, and that's your ability to understand where you are in space. For one thing, we're one of the only bipedal mammals. Everybody else is on 4s, and we have to keep our head in balance as we're walking around, and we have a lot of reception, communication between the body and the brain, between the jaw and the third cervical vertebrae. There's roughly 70% of all of your ability to understand where you are in space comes from here. And if there's any mechanical fault in that area, your brain doesn't quite know where you are. And one of the problems with that is there's a part of your brain called the cerebellum that regulates your resting muscle tone, especially your unconscious muscle tone. Like, for example, when I'm moving my hands, that's conscious. But I'm sitting up here and I'm using all my back muscles and I'm not thinking about it. So those are unconscious muscles. So your unconscious spinal musculature is actually naturally set tight, which people don't understand. And it's your brain's job to inhibit that resting muscle tone. And that's the cerebellum's job, and it can only do that if it has enough quality, symmetrical proprioception coming to the brain so that it can do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's like totally backwards to how people think muscles are, where they're set loose, and then you have to consciously send a signal from the brain to contract it, where what you're saying, some of the muscles in your back are set tight, and your brain has to say, no, relax.
That's right. And the brain uses the information primarily from the upper cervical, the jaw, and the first couple of cervical area, that region, the upper cervical region, to regulate that. So if you have normal mechanics in the upper cervical spine, the cerebellum's able to relax your spinal muscles and they can be symmetrical. The problem is that after you're adult and you've taken your lumps and bumps and bruises, most people don't have normal functioning upper cervical spines. Most people's cerebellums are not able to inhibit the spinal musculature, and therefore you end up chronically tight in certain areas and off kilter, and that's kind of one of the problems in upper cervical chiropractic. There's also
I always wondered why that
areas.
would happen, right?
What's that?
Oh, I'm just old, I'm just tight, my muscles aren't what they used to be. I'm swelling, it's protecting me, something, right? I never knew. So this is the first time I've heard about this, truthfully. So it's really my muscles aren't getting the signal from the cerebellum saying, hey, relax.
That's right. Relax symmetrically. And that's the problem, is that most
Yes.
people have asymmetrical tight muscles in their back and
Yep.
it's set from on top.
Totally. Right. And you're right. It's the bumps and the bruises, because as a kid, I never woke up sore and tight or with a crick in my neck or anything like that. I would fall out of a tree, dust myself off, and, I probably should have seen a chiropractor then, but you felt fine, right, as a kid.
Yeah.
And as we get older and
There's
we get the bumps
not
and
a
the
lot of
bruises, and before
correlation
long.
between how you feel and how your body's working.
Yes, there is a difference, right? It's not the
and
same.
It's like I applaud the dentist profession.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, I'm 55. So when I was a kid, we only went to the dentist when you had tooth pain.
Right.
And they've been able to parlay their profession from going only when you're having pain, and it's basically you have a real issue, to now it's basically almost all preventative, because
Right.
people care about their teeth and they have things that they do for their teeth every day. They brush, they floss, and they have regular checkups. And
That's right.
I hope sometime maybe before I die, chiropractic people will use chiropractic that way just to make sure your body's working right. Because most people are out of alignment and pain-free. Yeah, but the problem is that when they have a pain, it's usually because there's a tissue that's been injured, hurt, or flared up, and that's the source of the pain.
Sure.
And they come to my office and they want pain relief, but there's a caveat to that, because if all they cared about was pain and pain relief, they just go get a steroid shot. You know what I'm saying? They just go get a
Yeah.
steroid shot or take a bottle of Advil. The fact is that when they come to my office, whether they know it or not, they actually want the problem addressed and resolved. You know, and that's when the way my perception is that basically I take a patient who has a misalignment and usually a tissue irritation or injury or irritation, and I balance the frame. I improve the structure and the function of the spine, and then that gives them that improved environment to heal in. And then they feel better and the body heals. Then, sadly, most of them will be done, happy, and they leave. And then within a period of time, the natural state is not in alignment. The natural state is out of alignment. And they will regress to out of alignment, and they'll be pain-free out of alignment until there's a big enough tissue irritation to come back in again, which is, from my perspective, frustrating, because that's not really what I'm happy with that. I'm used to that. But
Right.
the truth of the matter is that people have this understanding that they think that they're always in alignment and they're only out of alignment when they have pain, but that's like really not true.
And I've heard that. I heard that a few years ago from a doctor in Texas. You know, he has this a presentation he gives every new patient, and then he'll redo it about every 6 months to essentially remind them that subluxations will quote unquote lie dormant. I mean, they are there causing negative effects, but you will not necessarily feel pain for days, weeks, months, and sometimes even years,
You
right?
can go your
Until the
whole life.
decay is so bad it causes a problem. But just
Yeah.
because you don't feel the pain doesn't mean nothing is wrong. And so that's what I'm hearing again from you.
Yeah. And, it's funny because there's so many things that we consider to be very serious in our society
Yeah.
medically that have no symptoms, right? I mean, like high blood pressure
Heart
has almost
disease.
no symptoms. High cholesterol has no symptoms. Most cancers are asymptomatic. Most heart disease is asymptomatic. But,
Right.
you know, people have a different feeling about their spines and their backs. It's a workhorse, and they just kind of whip it until until they can't whip it anymore.
Right.
That's the problem. Yeah.
I believe that is beginning to change. And I think my theory is social media has a lot to do with it. There is a very promising movement through social media for health. Health is becoming more of a priority. I mean, is everyone going to prioritize their health? Of course not. But people are becoming more educated about their bodies and about their health and what they can do to take control of their health. And chiropractic is all in that mix. We're seeing, I don't know all these influencers by name, but I do know there's a Dr. Bo Hightower and several other doctors of chiropractic that are active on social media, and they don't have followers in the 10,000s and video views in the 10,000s. They're in the millions. When they make a video, they reach millions of people with the message of chiropractic
Is
that may
Dr. Hightower
otherwise
the guy with the
who
hammer?
watch it for. He is the one with the hand, right? He works
Yeah, I
on
like him.
strongman
I mean,
competitors. He works on people that if you're not
yeah,
using some,
celebrities. Yeah.
you got to go through a foot of muscle to get to these guys' backs, right? So he has to be a little
Yeah.
extreme, and so there is some showmanship around him, particular, and
Yeah.
I get why he does that. You do it for engagement in the views, and I think that's a good thing. Someone
Yeah.
like me, 6'1", 190 pounds, I don't need a hammer. My chiropractor
I
can adjust me just fine.
I spent my whole life trying to balance the body with about 3 pounds of force. So
Yeah.
It's almost nothing. So
That, and,
I
and that's all it takes, right? It's so little force. My doctor,
yeah.
he uses a plethora of modalities, and he does use an activator.
Mhm.
So,
Activators are
he
about
told me the
28
force
to
in newtons,
35 pounds.
I don't remember how to convert newtons to pounds, from physics thousands of years
Activators are
ago.
about
But
28 to 35 pounds of force.
yeah, it's very little, right?
It
It's
doesn't
very
feel like a
little.
lot. Yeah. It's a
No,
little bit of a wallop, but it doesn't feel like a lot.
no, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't feel
No.
like I'm getting jackhammered, nothing like that. It doesn't take
Right.
much force to make an adjustment, which also tells me it doesn't take much force if you don't have the musculature in the back to keep things in alignment to get out of alignment, right? Like it does. Am I wrong or am I on? What do you think?
Say that again.
So if it doesn't take a great deal of force to align and adjust the spine, it won't necessarily take a great deal of force to knock it out of alignment through.
Yeah, I didn't, I don't really believe either one of those.
Really? Okay.
Well,
Correct me.
it takes a huge amount of, if you use light forces, well, to truly line somebody up, I always tell patients, I'm not interested in doing a procedure. I'm interested in working with you until I achieve a result.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at posture and other ranges of motion before and after the adjustments. And you can do a procedure, a manipulation or activator, and stand them up, and they look very similar. And even if I go on the upper cervical area, if I use my light force, and if I don't have it set just right to allow the body to spring out of its misalignment, nothing happens.
Oh,
And that's why I really focus on the post checks, and to make sure that we're not just doing something and saying you're aligned. You have to actually know how to work down an alignment so that it straightens up, straightens up, straightens up. And once you're straight and you've held your adjustment for 3 days, I think you can hold that adjustment forever.
why do you say that? Why is 3 days the magic number?
It's not. It's just a general. But here's my idea: is that basically, if you're in alignment, okay,
Uh-huh.
and there's two parts to the adjustment. There's the physiological effect of actually getting moved, okay, and then there's where you're left, at where your alignment ends up. So you get a benefit just from getting worked on, even if you're not much straighter. But if you go through your daily routine, if you go to the gym, if you sit all day at work, if you go to sleep, you have a toss and turn sleep. If you do that you go in and out of cars, you do your normal routine, and if after 3 days you're still right, if you're still balanced, the body needs to be knocked out of alignment. And usually the reason why people get knocked out of alignment is because they're not living within their abilities to hold an alignment. They're overstressed psychologically, physically, and chemically. Or they have a history of spinal trauma, which has weakened their spine to some degree to hold their alignment. But I think that the straighter you get them, and as long as the spine is not like acutely injured, my whole goal is to work harder so people hold their adjustments longer. And I've had, when I was in California, a high wave surfer, and this is a guy who would get up in the morning and find out where the surf's up, like in Australia, whatever. He'd fly there. He was actually a medical doctor, and he would fall off of 3-story buildings, basically.
Yeah.
He'd come back to be in a line most of the time. But then some people will, be have, it's about, if you can understand your limitations and live within them, you can hold your adjustments for a long time. I've had somebody hold their adjustments for 13 years. And so I think that if you truly get somebody nicely lined up, and they aren't acutely injured, a lot of times people can, on average, should hold 3 to 6 weeks, even if you're misbehaving. I think that if people slip out of alignment very quickly, either we didn't get them lined up well enough, or there's some kind of really underlying problem either with their actual spine or their lifestyle,
Right.
their general health. We have to pass that off. There's a baton pass between us lining people up, getting the body working better, and then taking their natural health constitution, their health status. That's what really allows people to heal and get better. So if somebody has a weak constitution or a poor health, they don't, respond as well. But you still should be able to hold an alignment for a long period of time, and it shouldn't be easy to knock out if you're in alignment well.
I think you've put this in one of the most articulate, succinct ways I've ever heard.
Thank you.
I have heard chiropractors say, no, if I've done my job, you're out of here. But what does that mean? No one ever told me what that means. And you just did.
Yeah, great.
Right? It's not about doing an adjustment so darn well that it's over. It's about adjusting my patient and then helping my patient understand their limitations, maybe help my patient actually get stronger, adjust their lifestyle, and then help them live within those limitations. And if they want to expand those limitations, perhaps you help them with that. But that's the problem. The adjustment, if it holds for 3 days, they can probably hold it forever if they, like you said, don't misbehave. And I love that word. I'm always misbehaving, right? That's why every 2 weeks.
And that's why I stay in business.
Yeah, right. Because you'll tell me what to do, and I won't do it. Right.
Yeah. Well.
So now I can't blame you. It's like, well, I have to blame myself because
if you're gonna eat sugar, you should brush your teeth.
Yes.
So if you misbehave, then come see me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's worth it because I feel better. Yeah. I function better. I'm happier. I'm not cranky and grumpy. I get really cranky and grumpy when I'm in pain. No one likes to be around me. Yeah. So it's worth every penny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth the trip. Great. What are some of the ways that you help patients really understand their bodies and what it is you're actually helping them with?
Well, one of the ways that I help patients understand what I'm doing is by basically show and tell. And during the exam, I check there's certain indicators that I use that are really not for me, but they're for the patient. And one thing I do is a lumbar rotation, and I say, which one is stiffer, And I say, really see which one's more restricted, and they have a side. In their neck, same thing, which is their most limited range of motion. And I feel their neck, and I have them lay down, and I do a supine leg check, and I ask them, I say, does your lower back feel stiff and arched up off the table? Because that's the problem, like I mentioned before, of that baseline tension. You're laying down on a table on your back. You're not supposed to be using any of your muscles. Why is it tight? It shouldn't be, right? If it's working properly.
That makes sense.
And then, and those particular, I use other indicators too, like posture and some other things, but those indicators are for the patient. And then I line them up. Every adjustment is absolutely 100% custom. There's usually no two people that I actually adjust the same over the course of a year. And that's something. But once I get them lined up on the table and I make my impulses, I sit them back up and I have them redo those ranges of motion. And I do believe that that's an important indicator that you just reduced the lumbar range of motion, lumbar musculature tension and the cervical tension. And I keep working until I get that out of there. I will work on the upper cervical area until I get improvements in the lumbar spine range of motion because I know I can, If I don't get it, it's because I didn't do my job properly or they're just way too inflamed down there. But
Right.
99% of the time, I can change the lumbar pelvic angle, position, and that should translate into them being able to turn more. So I explain that's one tool I use to help patients understand what's going on in their bodies. And then I lay them down on their back and I say, does that lower back feel stiff and arched up still, or does it feel flat and relaxed? It feels flat and relaxed. If it doesn't, I'm not done. That's why I'm not a procedure-based chiropractor. I say, hey, there's still something going on. Even though I gave it my best effort, I got to do something different.
Yeah.
I got to do something better to get that to really settle down. And that's why if I can get those things done and I really get them lined up, that's when they hold, you know? And outside of that, psychologically, we have to deal with what people come into the office believing and why people come into the office to begin with. People come into the office typically believing either that there's one bone that slipped out of place, which is impossible and wrong, or that there's a muscle, there's something wrong with their muscle, you know,
Yeah.
and that I'm going to adjust things to improve their muscle function. And muscles have been put on, because in our society, people essentially first believe the medical doctor, right? And medical doctor treats pain chemically, which really works, but there's drawbacks, right? And
Sure.
it doesn't help the actual tissue, you know? And then they refer to physical therapists, essentially. And physical therapists are really about strengthening and core. If I had a dime for every time somebody came in and said, I need to improve my core, my back's screwed up because my core is weak. Well, maybe it's because your pelvis is rotated insanely and stays that way your entire life. Maybe that's part of it,
Right.
And so muscles are dumb. They don't have memory. There's no mechanism for a muscle to have memory. All that, one of the whole thing is muscle memory I hear a lot about. It's actually neurological memory and understanding. And
Yeah.
so when people come in, it's really hard sometimes to get them out of that mindset because that's what they believe in. And I think that the best way to explain to patients something new is first, you have to get them well. They're not going to change their mind about anything that they walked into the door with until you do something better for them than they've had. You have to be better than the medical doctor. You have to be better than the steroids. You have to be better than the physical therapist. Otherwise, they're not going to even listen to change their idea. So that's the first thing. And then after you've helped them more than what they're used to getting helped, it depends on how curious they are,
Right.
So a lot of people just don't care, period. Yeah. So you got to take people from where they're at and work with them from where they're at. And I really think that the better result you get, then they kind of get it.
Yeah. No, that
But it's difficult.
that makes sense to me. I really do believe you cannot explain belief into people.
Right.
Human beings, we have to taste and see. That's
That's
when we
right.
really understand it.
That's a biblical verse, by the
It
way.
is. It is.
Yeah.
I know it is. Taste
Yeah.
and see that I am good. Yes, it is.
That's right.
So
Uh-huh.
we have to use our senses and experience. Logically, you're going to tell me everything you told me as a patient. I'm sitting there on the side of the bed. You're telling me what's going on. But unless you take the time and, like you said, these tests aren't for your benefit. You say,
A
let's
little bit
try
anyway.
this. Now, do you see? Let's make an adjustment. Hey, let's do that test again. Now, do you see? Do
Yeah.
you see? Oh, yes, I do. Now, emotionally, because that's where our decisions are really made, not logically. We think we use logic, but we use emotion. Now, when we feel it, our emotion towards this guy who just, wants all my money and wants me to come back for life, maybe it's like, hey, this guy really is looking out for my best interest. And eventually,
Yeah.
when they're just on maintenance and they're only coming in, maybe they are that once every 13-year person or that once every 6-week person. They've gone through this process of trust, but building trust, and now they've done that through a metamorphosis that began really with you as the doctor understanding, working with them where they are first, and
Yeah.
not
What?
assuming that what you take for granted as nuts and bolts, basic stuff, they have not assuming when you're an expert, you assume the basics, everyone knows them, but it's not true. No one knows what you've just told me. Not really. I try to, eh, you know, I'll have family and friends that complain about this, complain about that. And I say, you need to find a good chiropractor. I'm like, I'm just going to stick with my physical therapy. Or, my buddies say, I'm going to the VA. They got me on 13 pills and this and that. And they got me going to see this physical therapist. And like a chiropractor isn't even on the radar, right?
Right.
They don't even know these things. Whereas I knew if they knew what I knew and knew what you know, they would say, why am I taking these drugs? Why am I wasting my time? PT is not a waste of time. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying oftentimes what should be dealt with by a chiropractor is being dealt with by an MD and a PT or a DPT even, when they are not necessarily going to correct the root cause of the problem. They're going to do the very best they can, and you will get
Yeah.
relief, but you could get better results elsewhere. So I do see that a lot, and everyone has their place. But and tell me what you think about this. I have heard and I've come to
Well,
believe that chiropractors should be the primary care physician for a person. You're a
okay.
first line of defense.
Let me go back to something else you said
I'm so yeah. I really
quickly.
unloaded. Go back.
So, yeah, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, you have to go forever. Why is it that the poor chiropractor is the only guy who you shouldn't go see forever? You go see your medical doctor
You
forever.
do.
You go see your dentist forever. You go see your barber forever. You go see your mechanic forever. How come the chiropractor is the only guy you can't go see forever? Because I just find that to be sad, and I wish that wasn't out there. But you should go see your chiropractor forever. It shouldn't be, just like you see your, hairdresser or anybody else. We should be part of some people's lives.
You know what I
But
think that is? Because people believe you guys are pain relief doctors, and that's all you do.
well, yeah, we got pigeonholed into back pain, and you know, the thing is that do I wish chiropractors were the gatekeepers? No.
No?
I mean, I'm not against like our profession taking on a responsibility for that. I'm not saying that for myself personally. I don't really have an interest in sick, coughing kids with infections. That's not what I really am interested in either,
Right?
because that takes us even that in a way takes us even further into allopathy in a way. You know what I'm saying?
No, I
I
don't.
mean, okay, so chiropractic is more holistic.
Yeah.
We are trying to get the body working better so that the body has a better environment and a better chance at healing itself up.
Yep.
But, if you come in with a heart attack or cancer, we may not be, things are already so far gone that we have to start treating specific issues.
Right.
We're more of a general, we should be a part of the equation. We should be in there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like, I don't want to start to go and to have to work with people with pneumonia and,
Uh,
you see what I'm saying? I mean, I just feel like I want to be more into, I want to just be adjusting, and I don't want to be adjusting for particular ailments. Yeah, because when you're a gatekeeper, Essentially you have to have people coming in with any kind of issue, and then deciding on where and what kind of treatment they should have. And that is it's not an interest of mine to have people
Gotcha.
coming
So you're not
in.
interested in gatekeeping here.
I'm not personally interested in gatekeeping. I
Gotcha.
think that chiropractic as a profession could do that job and could do it
Yep.
well. And I'm sure there's a lot of people within my profession or within chiropractic that would like that and would do
Oh
great
yeah.
with that. Just
That's where
personally,
I got the idea.
yeah,
I didn't come up
personally,
with
I'm
it.
not that interested in gatekeeping. I think it would take me away from what I really love to do, which is basically working with people with chiropractic. Because a lot of
Right.
people that come in, chiropractic probably wouldn't be necessarily the first thing. I mean, people need surgeries, people have appendicitis, people have, I don't have any interest in doing that kind of work where you have to take people in and see what's appropriate for them, triaging them. Yeah, I would
Right.
rather us be almost out of the whole medical system entirely and be more like it used to be, just fee for service and like massage therapy, just completely separate. You know,
Totally.
yeah, I think that we don't really fit into a medical model, and that's a big problem in chiropractic, is that we're really
Well,
not.
that is an interesting take. That might be a hot take too. You know, I'd be
Mhm.
curious to see which doctors choose to stand on your side of the line, because I don't think I've heard that opinion before. Not saying anything against it or even that I disagree with it, but I've never heard that. So many
I'm sure.
doctors say, chiropractic should lead the way, and we could be the primary line of health and keeping people well. And then when there's an issue that is beyond what either it's too far gone or it's appendicitis, it's cancer, then we refer out from there to take strain off of our overburdened medical system. That was the logic, and I thought, well, that does sound great, but you just offered me an alternative way, really a counter argument to that idea, which is I don't want to be a triage nurse. My job is to give people chiropractic, not to deal with sick sniffles and this and that, and then you really just be a glorified gatekeeper routing people based on the triage somewhere else.
I would find triage boring, but a lot of
Yeah,
people would find it exciting. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I would. I mean, I support anyone. I support the concept. If for chiropractors, I think that we could do that job and we could be helpful to society in that position. Just that I have no interest in it. Yeah.
but you don't see every chiropractic office being a primary care office, but some chiropractors definitely could fit that role,
Yeah.
is what
I
you're
mean,
telling
if
me.
somebody had that inclination and that's what they
Yeah,
wanted to do, I'm sure that, we're very overtrained, you know. I think all healthcare professionals are overtrained.
I've heard it.
I don't think we need as much training as we've got, and I think that chiropractors are qualified to do that kind of work with some training on top of it because we don't do that kind of work. But yeah,
Yeah.
not for me.
So tell me about the first office you opened in Palo Alto.
Okay. Yeah. So I just graduated, and I've always looked a little bit young, and I looked like I was probably 18 or something. I was 29, and I started my practice in Palo Alto, California, from scratch, and I did almost everything. I had no fear. I had no limitations on like what I would do. I went door to door. I I went door to door. I called every uh, lawyer in town. I took everyone to lunch. I don't even remember. Would go to any meeting. I would join leads groups and all this stuff. And just I wasn't accepted as a you know as a doctor or somebody. I just didn't feel like, even though I liked living in the community did not support me as a doctor, and it was frustrating. And about a year into it or so, a friend of mine from Fresno called me who did a similar work, and he said, "I'm moving to Florida, and I need somebody to take over my practice." And I said, sure, I'll buy that practice. And I moved out to Fresno, and it was actually an insurance-based practice there. And I'd only been out for like a year or so.
Yep.
And I bought the practice. I moved out there. I immediately clicked with the culture, with the people. They accepted me as a doctor, and I grew. One funny thing is that I was a little naive. I thought, oh, I just have to sign up with the insurance companies that they were on, and I should be able to continue with the practice the way the practice was running. Apparently, a lot of these insurance companies wouldn't let me on their list because I hadn't been practicing for 3 years.
Oh,
So I inadvertently started a cash practice because I had no other choice, you know? And
it's a
then,
chicken or the egg situation.
yeah, I just started it up, and I worked my tail off. I was in front of Target, I was in front of Kmart and Walmart doing screeners. I walked the neighborhood. I did lunch and learns. I had the tip meetings. I was in the yellow pages back when the yellow pages was a thing.
Oh boy.
And
Stop dating
I did
yourself. You look young.
internal. I did spinal care classes. I did a lot of education. And then
Yep.
3 years came by, and the insurance companies called me up saying, "Do you want to join my list?" I'm like, "No," and because I already built a cash practice, and cash practice was the best. It was my happiest time as a practitioner in my career, because I think something that has been lost in the American system of healthcare is who holds the dollar, you know? And the two differences I understand with healthcare, insurance-based versus cash-based, is when I was working cash-based, I had essentially 2 or 3 visits to really make substantial improvements. People will write that first check. People will write that second check. If you don't really substantially help them, or if they don't think they're in the right place, the third check might be the last check you get. So in cash
Yeah,
practice, I learned you had to overperform, and you also had to be at least as valuable as what you're charging.
for
In
sure.
the insurance industry, you go see a cardiologist or something like that, and it's a whatever, it could be $1,000 visit. Ain't nobody gonna shell out $1,000 for a routine checkup, or $500 for a routine checkup. But their insurance picks it up, or their insurance rates are lower. And I think that in the overinflation of prices with insurance, especially within medicine and physical therapy to a certain degree, has really taken the healthcare power away from the patient who's seeking the care, and more the relationship of power is between the practitioner and the insurance company, which I think has screwed up healthcare. I
I've
think that
heard that a lot.
if medical doctors had to go fee for service again, it would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah.
It would solve a
No,
lot of
I've heard
problems.
that a lot. And really
Yeah.
it's like these insurance guidelines end up diagnosing and prescribing treatment to patients, really not the doctor, because it's your hands are tied, right? This person either gets something or they get nothing. And
Well, yeah. There's
that
standards
is
of
messed up.
care. There's standards of care, and essentially you have to abide by them. And that's why they have AI doctors now, artificial intelligence doctors for internists, and they're almost as good as a real internist, because basically you feed the AI the lab readings, the symptoms, the history, and it's almost as good as an internist because it's incredibly algorithmic. And
Yep.
and I think that's a problem for anyone who doesn't fit inside the box. Yeah,
AI doctors, AI
they
is
have them.
pretty exciting, can do a lot of stuff, but it can also,
Yeah,
if you used it at all, anyone out there, and I have been using it quite a bit, it can also be
yeah,
incredibly stupid. When we're talking
yeah.
about
It's learning.
when we're talking
They're
about
getting
someone's
better.
life, you
Yeah,
can't be incredibly stupid ever.
no, not yet. That's why they don't use them yet, but they're getting close
Yeah. Well,
for certain
not
fields.
not
Yeah,
to say one day when AI is more powerful than any human being that it wouldn't be a useful tool, but yeah, as of
yeah.
today, we can't rush head first
Not
into
yet.
it.
No. We're not
Yep.
there yet.
We're talking about lives, not some pet project. You reminded me talking about insurance. I mean, they're just dictating so much about the medical system. She's not a chiropractor, she's a nurse practitioner. So she's a doctor, but not of medicine. She's a doctor of nursing. She
Mm-hmm.
was a nurse for 20 years
Mm-hmm.
in hospitals. I mean, she's basically an MD, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She has a private practice in Texas that she opened a couple years ago, and it's all cash based. But she wanted to serve the underprivileged communities that she grew up in, and the fees are. She makes a really good living, but the fees are still kept very, very low. And she really took issue with the healthcare system as a whole. One story that the one I remember is standing out. And she worked for a doctor, and he would bill a lab test at $1,000. You want to take a stab at how much that test cost him?
150.
About $1.50. That's what she
That's
said.
Yeah, that's not right though.
I don't know. I don't know if it was a test he sent out, but she said the cost of the test itself, which may have been the physical, whatever the test cost, not the
Yeah.
processing, right? Maybe
Okay.
she
Yeah.
wasn't really taking
Sure.
that into account. But she'll do the same test for something like $50 cash. So
Yep.
no insurance, nothing, like no running around that circus. And it just made me realize, wow, something here is not right. Now, of course, she's one person with one experience or set of experiences in one opinion, but she's doing something about it, and seems to be doing really, really well. So your
One
first
of the
practice in
Yeah.
Palo Alto wasn't a
Yeah.
raging success. Moved to
No.
Fresno, found
No.
success,
Yeah.
and you were there for how long?
Yes. 15 years, and I attribute my success in Fresno to fitting into the community.
Right.
I really feel like I was accepted into the community. People valued me in the community for who I
Mm.
was, even though I looked like I was 18. And I worked really hard, and I did my best. But I really think that there's really something to be said to start your practice in a place where not only that you like, but they like you, or where you really fit in, you know?
Yeah.
And I practice in multiple locations, and it really seems to be a driving factor, you know.
Wow. Oh, so open that up for me. I won't ask why you left. I'm sure that if I ask you every little question that isn't necessarily the most important, we'll be here forever. You said you've practiced in multiple locations. So we have Palo Alto, we have Fresno, now we have Naperville. Where else have you been?
Well, I had 3 different locations within Fresno
Oh, goodness.
at different times,
At different times. So it's
not at the same time.
five locations so
Yeah,
far.
yeah, so 5 different locations.
Have you
Yeah,
practiced anywhere else besides those 3 cities?
no,
No. Okay. So in five, you've essentially practiced in 5 different locations,
yeah,
which is pretty incredible. A lot of doctors I've interviewed and worked with, they may not have jumped around that much. They don't
yeah,
necessarily have
smart.
all these different
You should
experiences,
grow where planted. You should grow where planted.
right? Right.
Definitely.
And where
Starting a
I'm
new
going with
practice
this
is not easy. Yeah.
is there's this idea in the health and wellness entrepreneurship world that something that works for a doc in location A should also work for doc in location B halfway across the country. Same strategies, same systems,
Yeah.
same price points, same everything. But
Yeah.
that's just not true.
So, well, for example, I actually tried to do exactly that. So I had a practice in Fresno that was essentially 100% cash
Yeah.
practice, except for Medicare, and I loved it. And I moved out to Naperville, Illinois, and I essentially tried to carbon copy what I had in Fresno. The thing is that the culture is different here. Californians, especially in Fresno, they were more open to chiropractic in general, and they were also more open to investing in their health in general.
Yeah.
For example, when I was in Fresno and I'd meet somebody and they asked me what I did and I told them what I do, and if they were interested, if they said, "Oh, by the way, are you on my insurance?" I said, "I don't take any insurances." The conversation didn't abruptly end. You know, it's like they'd still ask some more questions about what I did and how things go, and maybe even come in for a consultation or something like that. In this area in Naperville, when I was starting out here, people would say this exactly: "Oh, you're not on my insurance. I can't come see you." I'd say, "Oh no, you really can," and they say, "No, I can't." So it's a different mindset that's not 100% out here, but it's much stronger out here, that people feel like they have to stay within their insurance company's parameters, and the conversation ends right there. There's no, "Oh, sorry, it's a non-starter. You're not in my insurance."
Why do you think that is? Why is it that people have these different ideas?
It's cultural. It's cultural. And my sister warned me. My sister lives out here. And I said, "Sasha, I'm going to start the same cash practice I started before." He goes, "You're an idiot. No one here is going to come see you without having an incredible reputation. No one's going to come start seeing you if you're not on their insurance."
Right.
And I had to eat crow and say, "Yeah, you were right." At least for me. I know there's other people who have started cash practices around here and have been successful. But I'll tell you one big difference. They're from around here, and they have deep cultural relationships in this community, which I didn't have.
You're just some weirdo from California.
That's right.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody. I have no track record. Nobody can vouch for me. And it's my personality. I'm not a great builder. I know people who have the personality of a practice builder. You can drop them anywhere. Population 500, they have 1,000 patients by the end of the week. There are people with personalities that they're really growth phase people. I'm not one of them. So it's a limitation of me meets community that I didn't quite. It didn't work. It worked. What worked in the past did not work for me there, and I think a lot of if you take the same doctor in the same kind of practice that works in one area and transfers them to another area, it doesn't mean it's going to work. It didn't work for me.
Right.
There's a lot of factors in practice success and how you get started.
No, that's really interesting because
yeah.
My background working with over 200 chiropractors has been in marketing. And we've all seen these marketing companies. You've gotten calls from them. You've seen their ads. They say, "Look, I can guarantee you we're going to get you 37 new patients in the month of February, guaranteed, or your money back. It's only $7,000 to start and $2,000 a month plus ad spend. Money back guarantee. Are you in?" And they seem so sure they're going to crush that number because they've done it a few times. But they're making the assumption and selling you the assumption that this will always work for everyone. It works for everyone. And so when you hear these messages a lot, I think most doctors are going to start to believe that if they're not getting that result themselves, even if they don't do business with that company, if they're not getting that result, there must be something wrong with them. They must be inadequate in some way. There must be something wrong with them. But the reality is, you literally carbon copied a practice that was working. The only thing that changed was the location, and by extension, the culture of the people around the location. And it totally fell apart.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
So you cannot just take a strategy that works for someone else halfway across the country and be lazy and copy it and make it work for you. It's like you have to actually do the work wherever you are, the hard work of solving the problems, of figuring out why isn't this working, what do I need to change to get to the next step, and then you hit another roadblock and you just go through this process and making it work for you, and it may not work for anyone else. That's what
And
I'm hearing from you.
and interestingly, like I was working my tail off trying to make it work. Honestly,
Yeah.
I went door to door. I did all the professional calls in the farmers markets and all that. And the only thing I changed was I started accepting insurances, and then I went fine. So,
Wow.
I, I mean, it just in this particular area, that's what worked for me. That's the only thing that worked for me is actually starting to accept insurances, and then things went just like from nothing to like starting to do pretty well very quickly. And
Isn't it
now,
interesting? You can make one change and everything just gets better.
yeah, in this area, that's what really worked. And then now I really feel like, at least my experiences, that people are very deep into having a good social presence on good reviews, a nice looking website, and people don't ask. Um, hmm, People don't always ask friends about chiropractors because they figure they can get all their information online. They do ask friends, but now that I think I have like 100 reviews, and so if people mention me, I know the first thing that happens is they're going to go and they're going to check out my reviews and my website, and my Facebook page, which stinks, but I have good reviews and I have a nice website, and I think that that's where I see the social proof that it's no longer about like me making testimonial videos of my patients because everyone says, oh, well, you can always cherry pick a few. But when people actually take the time to write a Google review, good or bad, hopefully, thank God for me so far, it's always been good. But, that's more social proof than the old testimonials used to be, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying that for 10 years to people. You have to ask for 5-star reviews and get those suckers. You have to.
Yeah.
If you want
Yeah.
to, if you want to do the best, anecdotes incoming. I forgot the doctor's name. He practices in British Columbia. He's not my client. I don't remember his name. He's not my client because he doesn't need me, quite frankly. He has 600 Google reviews. Second place in his market has like 200. He gets 35 to 65, depending on time of the year, new patients per month with zero advertising. These are not
Wow.
referrals. These are just the new patients that come from internet
Google.
searches, Google
Yeah.
searches, who find him and
He's,
decide that's my doctor, that's who I'm going to see. And he spends, other than the few years it took him to work really hard to get those reviews, now they pay off, and he left second place in the dust. There's no, when you look online in that market, there's no question about who's the best.
yeah.
And he crushes with 35 to 65 new patients a month, depending on time of the year, that are not including referrals. So if you add the referrals to the mix, I don't know what that number would be, but he is doing very well. And it
Yeah.
all came down to
It's
that
huge.
reputation.
It's huge. Yeah. Like I have a friend, I have two other people that work in my office
Mm-hmm.
that I sublet to. And one of the guys is a chiropractor and he tried Google AdWords and advertising on the internet and it didn't work. But I said, that was when you had no Google reviews. Now that he's got 60 positive reviews, I bet you it would work. I think that
Yeah.
you have to have social proof. No one wants to be the first one to go to a guy who doesn't have any street cred.
Yeah. I love it when someone who's not a marketer says, "Oh yeah, I tried this. I tried X and it didn't work." It's like, really? Works for a lot of other people,
Yeah.
or oh, the ROI isn't good, or whatever reason. And when I dig and really press on the issue to find out what didn't work, I say, "Okay, doc, that's fair. So what didn't work? Did your ads never show up, or did no one ever click on them, or did they click on them and never make it to the website, or did they make it to the website and then they never called, or did they call but never set an appointment? Did they set appointments but never show? Did they show but never convert to care? What exactly didn't work? I don't know. It's just, I tried it and it just wasn't for me. Like, okay.
Yeah,
Right?
I get a lot of
Do you see
I
what
get a
I'm
lot
saying
of
though? Like they don't
yeah.
know.
Well, I do 100%. The thing is that if you have a good social media presence, if
Yeah.
you have a nice website, an active presence, and if you have good reviews and a good amount of reviews for your area,
Yep.
if you do ad spending, you should be getting patients.
You should be.
And yeah, now the quality of the patient is not the same as a direct referral, but they can be for sure,
Hmm.
So, I mean, I from my online, um, I see on average between 15 and 17 new patients a month. And I would say that 8 to 10 of those usually are from Google. That's good.
Now, is that
I'll take them.
organically or are you paying for ads?
I Well, it's both, but we track it a little bit. But yeah, I think I do pay. I pay about $1,000 a month in Google AdWords,
Right?
which is I think a great ROI. You know, um, something like that. Depending on the month, I may pay just a little bit more than that. But I think for $1,000 a month to get 8 new patients, hey, that's cheaper than the phone book used to be.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
Big
and they're
time.
not. Yeah, I mean, they're my favorite thing. My favorite thing to keep myself engaged is really treating new patients because they're new puzzles to solve. You know, I really enjoy new challenges and I love taking care of my regulars. I love it, but they're not quite the challenge that somebody new is. So, yeah, 15 is about as much as I can handle by myself. New patients a month, and I pay for that, and it's almost paying to entertain myself. I
I
mean,
was
that's
about to say
that's what
that
I enjoy.
your
Yeah, I enjoy
your
that. So
entertainment expenses are wrapped up in your business investments, and you get to
yeah,
entertain
kind
yourself
of.
tax free. It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it is true. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy solving the new patient puzzles, and that if I don't have new patients, then I get really ornery. Yeah.
Start to get bored and wondering why you're doing this, and you
Well,
know,
yeah, I do. I get a little. I mean, I shouldn't say. I mean, my regular patients come in with challenges as well, but
sure,
it's once you got somebody's number, you kind of got somebody's number.
yeah, no, it makes
Yeah.
sense. And some personality types need a puzzle to solve, right?
Yeah,
You're like a
I'm
border
that way.
collie
Yeah.
that must live in the sheep
Yeah,
pasture. You need a
that's
puzzle,
right.
or
That's right.
you
Yeah, I
start
need
getting
new
nervous, you
patients.
start
Yeah.
chewing things that aren't supposed to be chewed, and get yourself in trouble.
Yep.
But once you have a job again, once that innate need is being met, you're fine. You're good. So, so you're saying
Yep.
it's worth every penny, right? And I know I can already hear it. Someone is going to say to me, "Well, Jared, $1,000, I should be getting a lot more than 8 or 10 patients." Really?
Where else are you gonna get it?
Yeah, right. Like,
Where
where
else
else are
are
you
you
going to
gonna
go?
get?
And secondly,
Where else are you gonna get 8 to 10 new patients a month for $100 a
yeah,
pop,
and
$150 a
exactly. Like
pop?
how much are they going to spend with you on that first month? More than 100, probably more than 100 on the first visit. So, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You paid your cost to acquire immediately, and then
Yeah.
if we're talking about business, like if you
Yeah.
can't make that profitable, like you really need to look at what is going wrong because you should be profitable at
Yeah.
those numbers.
If it when my social presence, I mean, yeah, it did not. I spent money and I discontinued spending money with Google AdWords my first couple of years in practice, and I did get a fair amount of reviews. I think that when I started getting a fair amount of reviews and my reviews were good, I mean, there's a difference between. I mean, people only read the first couple usually. So as long as your last couple are good, you can have a little fluff, but I don't really have any fluff. But once I had a fair amount of reviews that were quality reviews, like I really helped people,
Yeah.
then I got a lot of patients, and they come in and they say specifically, "I'm here because of your reviews. Your reviews are great, and
Yeah.
I'm here because you have good reviews." And you got to thank your patients. You got to thank my
You
patients are
do.
really good to me, so I'm really happy
They
that
feed
they
you.
take the time and to help me and write a
Yeah. I mean,
review.
you're assisting their body and healing itself, but they're really taking care of you as well.
They are, yeah,
It's
thank
it's
God.
it's a
Yeah,
two-way beneficial
talking about my
relationship.
patient taking care of me, a few things happened recently that have never happened. One thing is that a patient gave me a $1,500 tip. Yeah,
Wow.
it
That's
was,
incredible.
yeah, and I
Do you
said
think if you were
no.
burnt out and hated what you did, they would have done that?
Well, I said no. You can't. I'm not taking that. Right? That's
Oh,
crazy. And then she went away, and then she came back, and she's like, "I really want to give you $1,500 tip." I said, "No, that's crazy. You can't do that." The third time she came back, she's like, "I want to really give you this tip." And I said, "Are you like really wealthy? Is this like a cup of coffee for you?" You know what I'm saying?
some
And
people it is.
she said, "No, I'm not wealthy." And I said, "Then I'm not taking it." And then she said,
Oh,
"I really am just going to give this to you." And that's never happened to me before.
I
That
mean, that
was
is
so,
huge. I
she was super. I
I'm
mean,
with
that,
you.
that, that did make me feel very nice. That was great.
Yep. A little uncomfortable. You're like, ooh, that is
If
above
they
and beyond.
if they really, really, I mean, I needed the money. I mean, it was
Yeah.
$1,500 is, that's some money. And I was I don't think she was going to stop. So I was happy.
She just beat you
It
down,
made
huh?
me feel, let's put it this way, regardless of the money, it made me feel good. It made me
Yep.
feel good. And I've had patients, you know, um, I'll tell you, one of the
You
greatest
didn't feel a little
rewards,
guilty, like, wow, it's a lot of money. I don't deserve that.
huh?
You didn't feel
Well,
even a little guilty?
guilty?
Oh, I'm a terrible gift receiver.
Yeah,
If
me
you give me an
too. Which
expensive
is
gift, I'll
why
say, ooh, I
I
don't feel good about
know the
that.
first three times, but, you know, uh, I felt like it was coming out of a place of love and giving, and
Yeah.
I really felt like she wasn't gonna stop, and she really wanted to give it, and I just was, yeah, I felt more uh, happy, and that somebody really really valued me. But my
I
patient,
hear you.
talk about finances is one thing, but I'll tell you, the amount of baked goods I get, and like people sharing stuff with me, you know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
almost as good. I get a
Is that why
lot
you're
of
in the
people.
dojo all the time? You got to work off all the cookies and brownies and keep the love
Oh
handles
no, I'm
away?
trying to go. I'm trying to behave, so I give it all to my kids.
Oh, okay.
But the gift giving is also another way that patients take care of doctors, and it makes you feel good.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's incredible. Well, that will affirm that you're doing something right
well, at least for
if
somebody. Yeah,
they appreciate you so much they give you a gift beyond what their obligation to you is, which is usually right your
it's
fee
always
schedule.
it's always nice when somebody, because frankly, and to be honest, I put a lot more into patients' care than I think that they understand. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Right.
really, really, really try. I really work really hard to do my very best, and it's really nice because I don't have to. I mean, honestly, I've been a chiropractor for 25 years. I can kind of do it in my sleep, but I don't, and I still try
Right.
hard. I'm still trying to learn. I'm still trying to get better, and the patients don't have to tip me. My patients don't have to give me food, and it does make me feel a little bit better about things, because they don't have to, but they do, and they take care of me, and I really appreciate that. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's incredible. We were talking about your reputation, and just to cap that off and to conclude that, I agree with you. If you are not reputable, any marketing you do, all you're doing is accelerating the rate at which people know that you have no reputation.
Yeah.
It's foundational, and that's why I'll be honest with someone who wants me to do X, wants me to do Y, wants me to do everything but address the problem. It happens so often as a marketer, as a professional in the field. I'll get, someone will come to me it's kind of like you're someone coming to you and say they need to work on their core when that's not what they need to work on. They're like,
Right.
you're the patient. How do you know what you need? Right? You just know there's a problem. You're hiring me to find it and solve it. And the same thing happens to me. It's like, there's a problem. It's manifesting itself in not enough appointments in the week. Maybe you're at 200. You want to be at 275. Okay. Well, if that's the problem and you're telling me you want to do X, Y, Z to fix it, but I see there's an obvious issue and it's like, dude, you've got 13 reviews. The next guy has 27 and the next guy has 78 and the next guy has 170. Like, that's the problem. Not that you aren't running enough ads. It's just people are seeing you. They're just ignoring you. Right? And if you don't have a good reputation, my suggestion would be to quick, fast, and in a hurry remedy that problem.
Yeah.
Which I guess that this almost doesn't conclude it, because obviously you need to have a practice built that is worthy of a 5-star review. First of all, agreed?
Yeah.
Right? Your bedside manner, your table talk, your demeanor, the environment, the results, like it all has to work in concert to provide a 5-star customer experience. Otherwise, and that's exactly what it is, a customer experience. Just because they're patients doesn't mean they're not customers. It's still a business. You really have to earn it. It's not a given. Asking does 98% of the work of getting the review is just to ask for it. But if you haven't done the 2% of work to actually make them want to write that review, they're not going to.
Well, if you don't do the work, you get reviews like Dr. Haug's a nice man. 5-star, you know what I'm saying? And that's not what you want, because you're up against Dr. Haug changed my life. Do you see what I'm saying?
I want a paragraph about how
your life
they
has
were
changed.
born in Katy, Texas, and then 30 years later and a paragraph later, finally getting to what I've done for them. Right? I want them to be so ecstatic that
That's
they finally met me and I was the missing piece to the puzzle. That's what you want. Yeah, of course. And I think we all want those reviews.
People
now,
can sense the vibe of how the patient. They know how you really feel about the doctor by what you write, and if it's just 5-star nothing, it adds to your count. But people realize probably not a real honest, sincere review.
It might not be, yeah, or
it
you're
stack your number, I guess.
Or some patients are just so busy they don't feel like they have the time to take an extra 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That happens, sure. So, but yeah, for the benefit of using a review, which is just an online referral, the best referrals are typically a little bit more detailed.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Talking about the results.
Yeah.
Talking about the change, and those are the ones that really drive new business. And
That's right.
yeah, if you have those reviews, then it's time to actually invest in advertising, because you're going to show people your reputation, even if you're not bringing it up.
That's when the ROI comes.
By virtue of existing, they will look at your reviews, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool.
I agree 100%.
So what do you attribute you said you're a solo show, right?
Yeah.
You run the practice by yourself. If I were to go to see Dr. Haug, I'm seeing Dr. Haug.
Yeah.
From beginning to end.
Yeah.
Right? Every time. It's
That's
you.
a fact.
Which is unique. A lot of doctors hire CAs and they have support staff, but you do it all.
Yes.
We could talk about some of the automation and leverage that you've worked into your model, but before we do that, I want to ask you. You're doing it all by yourself. You seem to be very comfortable. You seem to be very happy with where you are. I would say you are a success. Would you agree with that?
I mean,
you know what a success is, right?
One man's ceiling is another man's floor. I'm of course, I always wish things could be a little bit better, but overall, things are good. Things are okay, yeah.
Overall things. So, but you're doing what you want to do.
I'm doing what I want to do.
Wake up in the morning and you do what you want to do.
I'm doing what I want to do.
You're a
for sure.
success.
Yeah.
You're a success, right? Being successful doesn't mean having a lot of money, right? Earl Nightingale talks about this. What's that?
Then I'm a success.
Yeah, like if you want to run the corner gas station for the rest of your life, and that's what you want to do, and you decided that's what you want to do, and that's what you're doing,
Yeah.
you're a success, even if you make
Yeah, I'm definitely doing
$33,000 a year.
I'm doing exactly what I want to do. Yeah.
You're a success.
Okay.
What is, because my definition of success, I don't necessarily want an enormous company where I'm being run ragged all the time just to keep the show going. I want to pay myself enough to live a modest lifestyle, and that's it. Like, to me, a success personally is not millions of dollars in income. It's just, I don't need it, right? I just don't care.
Yeah.
So everyone's success is different. You're right. One man's ceiling is another man's floor. That is just how it is.
Yep.
So now that we've established what a success is, what do you credit? What is the one thing that you've been doing that you can really point at and saying, this has contributed the most to my success?
That's really hard.
It is a hard question because you have to look outside of your business too. Maybe it has nothing to do with how you run your company, right? It's a big question.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say that I'm good at what I do, but that's not enough, really. And so I mean, I think it's a lot of factors, and I think that a lot of it's your community taking care of you, and finding your community. And I think that that's why I always say, if your community is really supportive of you, you're going to be fine. And if you don't really fit into your community, it's going to be hard. And I think that when I moved to Naperville, it was much harder for me to find my community here. And it's really your patients and the community that supports you or not. And then on the other side of it is you doing your job. But I really feel like it took me, it was harder for me to find my community here. But now that I have my community, I really enjoy my community here in Naperville. But it's really important to gel with the community that you're involved in, and that you have to be able to find your community that supports you. And if you can't find that, you're in trouble. No matter how good you are at what you do or how well you run an office or a business, if your community does not support you, you're done. And I almost was done because I really don't naturally fit in here in Naperville, but eventually I have found my community here. And I think that that's actually one reason why I see patients from all over, because my community, people came from, I have a lot of patients that travel. Like I said, I have patients from 170 cities. And there are certain communities where I have almost as many people coming 45 minutes, an hour away as I do local, because those communities I kind of gel with. It's kind of weird. But I think that the number one thing to my success would be I found a community that supports me. Number two is I honor that by doing my very, very best for the patient. And yeah, I think that that's probably the combination there. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a truth, there's a harsh reality. I'll explain. There's a harsh reality in this. If you're struggling where you are, it might be time to move yourself and your family somewhere else, right?
Whoo! So I've done it 3 times, right?
It's not easy.
And like you said, it worked the first time when I moved, right?
Right.
I guess, first of all, understand everybody has different personality. But if your practice has value and you can actually sell it and relocate even Steven to another practice where you gel more, yeah, that's great. You'll flourish where your community supports you more. If you're really like honestly, that's the way it was for me when I moved here. I really felt like a fish out of water, and it took a long time to get my community. And I'm pretty sure if I moved to a place where I fit in better, I would have had an easier road to hoe. But packing up and moving, I mean, we're not like a physical therapist or a medical doctor. They can just get a job. They can.
Sure.
We're talking about a small business, which is essentially how many patients, how many files you have. It's just to start from scratch. That's a real strong roll of the dice. So.
It is.
But if
Totally.
it's not working in one location, and you think the community and you gelling is not the problem, then yeah, picking up and relocating might have a complete success. It's real possible, but it's a big gamble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, it's all a gamble, right? And at the end of the day, everywhere you go, there is at least one office looking for an associate. If it's the difference between, your family living in a storage unit or you getting a job, you might need to get a job just to pay the bills while you're doing your own thing, right? Like, it's scary to start over, and you haven't been there in a while. But at the end of the day,
I worked
you can
three
always
jobs.
find income.
I worked
Huh?
3 jobs here in Naperville getting started.
Yeah.
I worked as a chiropractor. I worked as a chiropractor for another office, and me and my wife had a wedding photography business,
Wow.
which I loved, by the way. But we're too busy now for me to do it anymore, which I regret. I really enjoy that business.
Well, thank you very much,
Yep.
Dr. Haug. It's been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure.
And if someone wants to learn more about you, where do they go?
Well, they can call 630-948-4222 or haugchiropractic.com, or just call. If consultations are free, we can talk on the phone about whatever's going on.